John Carmack still brings the same genius to the video game world that he brought when he started back working on Wolfenstein 3D, which is trying to do something new and revolutionary with every generation of technology that he creates.
We invented the genre. We like to think we perfected it. We strive hard to make that experience. It's what we like to play as players.
We can make a first-person shooter and we can have gunplay, and we've done that before. But again, we're pushing the boundaries. We want to add something unique that we haven't done before. Well, I mean, id Software has such a storied history as creators of the first-person shooter and games that just kind of define first-person shooters like Doom and Wolfenstein. Those are kind of the big heavyweights, right?
So I was one of the founders of id Software now over 20 years ago, and I've been behind a lot of the advances in 3D graphics and rendering technology that have been some of the centerpieces of our games throughout the years.
I've been with the company for 16, 17 years, and at the very beginning, it was a small group of guys.
We have the walls lined up with articles that we've been featured in over the years, and Wolfenstein is the game that created the first-person shooter genre.
But Doom is the one that sort of popularized the genre. It defined this in-your-face, visceral, gritty action that really separates out first-person shooters from other games.
And you look at Quake, where we had client-server architecture, which is now the standard for every multiplayer game on the internet.
Rage is an opportunity to take all the cool stuff that we have learned over the years in building those games and apply it in a completely new setting.
We have continued to focus on the first-person action side of things, and that's been very much what Rage still takes away from our history there. It is a first-person game. It's about action. It's about intensity. It's how you play the game, what you experience, what happens to you in there.
If you're looking for Mayor Clayton, he's right over there.
When John Carmack was coming up with id Tech 5, one of the things we wanted to make sure we did is give people something new.
This is the first game that is going to use and fully explore the capabilities of John Carmack's id Tech 5.
The work that he does, the technology he creates, is just something that you wouldn't see elsewhere. And so a lot of it was just, how do we make something fun with this cool tech?
So the cornerstone of id Tech 5 is our mega texture technology.
It gives us the ability to tweak every single pixel that you see in the world.
Unique texturing is what id Tech 5 is all about, and we have some awesome artists that are able to actually exploit that and put all that detail into the world. The human eye can easily notice repetition in objects and in textures, and if you have a unique environment, that simply doesn't exist. And at any given point, the whole environment has this unique feel and this unique look to it.
So you're not running through the same space corridors for 20 hours in Rage.
We're all a little safer because of that.
With the advancements in the physics technology and the navigation systems, we're able to combine this sort of unique gameplay where we're bringing in vehicle combat and first-person interactions into one game environment. We're getting to the point now with Rage where what's in the minds of an artist, what's in the minds of a director, can actually make it into the game.
We are arguably the best-looking game on the consoles today. And the point is, we are running at 2 times the frame rate of what other people might argue is the best-looking console game there. So this has allowed us to have a distinctive visual style, fabulous top-of-the-line graphics, and still run at 60 frames per second to have a better gameplay experience, not just a better-looking game.
It's the complete experience. It's really the best thing that id's ever done. So the story of Rage. We had the setting. We knew we wanted to have it on Earth. Then we had to decide how we would destroy the planet. And we actually found that there's a real asteroid, which is called Apophis, which will pass by the planet around 2036. So in the fictional world of Rage, when the governments of the world discovered that Apophis would hit us and destroy most of civilization, they initiated a program called the Eden Project. So the game starts out where you are an Ark survivor. You are one of those people buried in 2036. Your Ark emerges from the ground 100 years later. Unfortunately, you're the only one that survives in your Ark. So when you step out, you are alone.
And it's this post-apocalyptic world that you rise up in, and it's this twisted version of the reality you used to know, and you really don't know what to expect.
Current position unknown.
There's mutants and there's bandits, and there's groups of settlers trying to survive.
You people are only trouble. Now be on your way.
The world has moved on, and it has its own thing going.
We don't give the character a name or a face that's unique to the story. We want the player to jump in and actually add his own identity into that character.
So when you step out of your arc in Rage, you have no idea what your role in the bigger conflict will be. At first, all you are worried about is surviving. And you team up with some settlers, and you're doing some odd jobs.
So here's what I need you to do.
So you're not just going from one area to an airlock to the next area. It is an open world. It's believable in a sense.
And it's the story and the characters and the setting that really delivers the gameplay.
You're driving across these landscapes, and you're going visit people here, and they're giving you jobs to do.
And as you head out of your safe zone, you enter like a combat area. So you may find a handful of bandits with rocket launchers mounted on their cars. And as a player, if you wish to engage them, you can. If you wish to try to run and gun and get out of there, you can.
Then the story starts unfolding, and you realize that these warring bandit clans, they all occupy a certain area of the wasteland. They own it. They'll attack you if you go in there and you don't look right. Then the same thing with the towns. If they don't know you, they're going to treat you like an outcast.
Well, will you look here? A new face, a new body. Oh, I am so glad I got out of bed this morning.
You start learning about these crazy mutants who they don't even like each other, much less you, much less the bandits. And then you learn about this other faction, the Authority, and they start playing a bigger and bigger role in the story.
They are trying to control the wasteland and set the direction of mankind.
That's the truth. And that's what people need to know.
So there's a small group of people called the Resistance that are fighting against the Authority. The Resistance discovers you. And everyone knows that Ark survivors have a certain specialness to them.
You got all those little computers racing around inside you.
As you move through the story, you become more important and people start to take notice of you, so does the Authority.
As you, the player, get your weapons and start interacting with the characters and start fighting all the bad guys in the world, you understand what your role is in the world.
So, you're the new team member.
The story in a game really gives meaning to the action. It creates the setting that all the gameplay exists on. And if you have a compelling story, and you have compelling action, and ways to drive the player forward, it just creates a richer experience and a more complete package.
But it's always about, again, something new around every corner, and you really have to stay on your toes in the wasteland.
So in Rage, what we've tried to do is in every new environment that you enter, we give you a new weapon or a new ammo type or a new engineering item to keep the experience fresh. And as you play through the game, your arsenal grows and grows.
It's a few different elements that really make a weapon good or satisfying. When you hit the fire button, it needs to do something on the other end. And that's where you get the feedback from blowing a head off or seeing a cool death animation. I've always loved shotguns in all of the id games especially.
I think if we didn't have a shotgun, a lot of fans would be upset.
But the crossbow, because it's so different and so new, it's almost like this utility weapon.
My favorite weapon in Rage is the wing stick.
Let me guess. You want to know how to throw a wing stick.
The wing stick is an offhand, instant throw weapon.
The wing stick is such an iconic weapon. It's this bladed death boomerang, and it has like a smart nano targeting core, is some of the mythos that we've built into it.
And if you time it right, you can chop the heads off of mutants with it.
We have these things we call gadgets or engineering items. Things like a little remote control car with a bomb attached to it.
Now you're building this little defense turret. If you have the parts and you have the plans to build it, you can build these anywhere in the world. So now you're running around, you're firing, and instead of just tossing a grenade or just throwing the wing stick, you're tossing down a little defense turret.
And we have other more complex engineering items as you progress through the game, things like sentry bots that are automated robots that shoot all your enemies for you. If you utilize some of the other gadgetry items, you can make it a thinking man's game.
But it doesn't stray too far from our core mechanics. It's one button. It all follows the same principle.
I pay nicely for quality goods.
There is an economy, and when people first think about the economy, they think RPG. But the economy is really your tool to manipulate how you want to play the game. It really is this player choice mechanic. So you're picking up this cash and these other cool items, then you sell it and you pick which ammos you want to buy.
When you get these new things, you'll want to try it out, and when you do, you learn how that impacts you as the player and how you want to approach a situation.
But at every step of the way, we never want the inventory to get in the way. It's there for a reason, it always has a purpose, but we still want to stay true to that kind of action.
The world in Rage is about survival and all the elements that the player will need to succeed in surviving. It's up to them how they want to use those gadgets, weapons, and ammo types. Along with the action shooter experience role that we intend for the player to take, we create these different options in the gameplay when you get into an area with all these various implements of death.
Or, you know, you may not want to have any strategy. You just may want to kick in the door, pull out your big shotgun, and start blasting away at the bad guys. We really give players the opportunity to engage the enemy AI in the way that's best for them. And we feel that that adds a lot of life and replayability to the game. The wasteland in Rage is kind of like a plate that the rest of the game sits on. As you travel around, you'll discover that there's these entrances to bandit hideouts and mutant caves and old sewers and things.
Listen, don't you go trekking around down there without some serious firepower.
In Rage, we try to make the game open but directed. Player choice is very important in Rage. The Wasteland is more than just a setting for the story. It's its own gameplay level, for lack of a better word. It's the thing that stitches the story and it stitches the action all together.
We want you to follow this action movie experience, but we allow you some freedoms to kind of explore different things.
Each of the missions does kind of surround the story. For instance, we have an electrobolt for the crossbow weapon. Electricity, water, that makes sense. Well, Wellspring sits on top of a well. So the obvious gameplay thing is here, okay, you shoot the electrobolt in the water. It electrifies anybody that's in the water and they die.
As you travel through the Wasteland, you meet very interesting, very over-the-top characters.
Great! Muy bueno! We are simpático, eh?
And we feel that creating memorable characters that offer you memorable missions really kind of helps drive the whole experience forward.
The interactions that the player will have with these characters should hit something in the emotional nerve of the player. So we've gone that extra distance to make key characters really feel alive.
So you know when you go talk to Dan or the J.K. Styles, the producer of that crazy TV show, or the sheriff, you forge these relationships with them. And they give you lots of bits of the story, but you live through the rest of those elements.
We felt that crafting interesting people made everything fit together.
I know you got questions, but we gotta get moving.
You're driving across these landscapes and you're going visit people here and they're giving you jobs to do.
So I hear you have a message from our friend Dan. Let's have it then.
One of the things that we discovered with Rage is when people saw us drive around, shooting other cars, they immediately said, I want to do that in multiplayer. So we've taken the best parts of the vehicle combat from the single-player experience and added a really fun, intuitive multiplayer experience with it.
We also have this cooperative style gameplay that allows a player to get with a friend, run through a level that's maybe changed a little bit from things that they've seen in the game, and then we roll a little bit of fiction into that. So it's taking all the kind of visceral, in-your-face action, but you're doing it with a buddy.
We really have the best of both. We have great co-op missions and some great vehicle multiplayer.
We want to provide the smorgasbord of different things that the player can do so that they can become immersed with other things rather than just a critical story path.
But if you want, you can go to the store, get a couple more grenades, outfit yourself with some new ammo types, jump back in the car and head for the next action. And we're okay with that.
The bad guys in the world, we have everything.
There's some bandits around the corner. Do what you can.
The bandits are considered to be more the violent settlers that aren't really economically inclined, but they have desires and needs.
Each bandit clan has a unique fighting style. It's ever-changing. For instance, the Ghost Clan.
Hey, over there!
They're very acrobatic. They can attack you from above or below. The Wasted Clan, what they lack in combat skills, they definitely make up for in personality. The Shrouded Clan, they've designed these remote-control bomb cars that they use against you. We felt that with human-type opponents, if you add personality to the fighting skills and add personality to the characters, it really makes the world more refreshing.
We're losing this!
But if you fight that enemy for 12 hours, I don't care how cool he was in hour 1, it's not going to be so cool in hour 12. So it's about mixing it up for the player. Not reinventing the rules, but give him something a little different around every corner, so that's what we strive to do.
The Wasteland has a number of mutants. So there's a bit of mystery to where the mutants came from. Some people believe that the cosmic radiation in the impact winter affected human development. But some people believe that the Authority were conducting experiments on humans, and the failures were, of course, the mutants. Then, of course, there's the Authority.
You don't really get to understand or know what they're about until later in the game, and they've kind of twisted this new reality to be what it is that the player will eventually find out as he gets to the end of the game.
These guys are battle-hardened military badasses. They have full body armor. They can coordinate with other squads. They have heavy weapons. When you go from fighting mutants with sticks to bandits with pistols to facing off against the Authority, it's a different experience. These guys are tough, and they mean business.
It is famous for having incredible graphics. So I wanted to have this real combat feel to it.
Remember, to be of use to us, you must be able to move around freely.
We decided to kind of make animations using motion capture.
In Rage, we have upwards of 6,000 animations that have been created. One type of character may have 300, 400, 500 animations that go with them.
By applying those animations, the character is starting to look a lot more interesting.
You also look interesting.
When you're actually in combat with an AI, they have multiple layers themselves.
When you shoot at the enemy, they'll actually react to the shot. So they'll freak out and they get into this scramble mode where he's running around trying to save his life and then dive into cover. And this is not really scripted, it's just based on what you've done to the enemy, which will change the AI state, and then they will play these different state of animations.
And you can interact with them at the time they're doing that, so it's not like they're just stuck in that particular animation. You can shoot them and kill them, and everything happens as you would expect. And all these things work seamlessly together to really make our AI stand out and feel like they're part of the world in a way that you haven't seen the first-person shooter before.
Well, enough with all that.
When the player's interacting in a combat scenario, the important thing to do is give them choices. And there should never be a dead point when they're only thinking, oh, I'm just holding the trigger down to kill these guys.
Unpredictability and the element of surprise makes a great enemy. It's when you enter a room, you think you know the situation, and the AI does something that you don't expect.
Because I don't want them thinking of it as AI. I want them to think, wow, that's the best combat experience I ever had.
So the first character that you meet in Rage is named Dan Hagar.
I hear there's something special about you Ark people.
He is this fatherly character that is trying to keep his settlement safe. We knew we needed a great voice talent, and the only way to find that is look for great actors.
In the initial images I saw of Dan Hagar, he had glasses, the shorts, the fishing vest, and I go, that totally reminds me of Walter Sobchak from The Big Lebowski. And I go, Tim, we need to get John Goodman.
Welcome to the future.
Beautiful. You can imagine if there was an actor from Hollywood that could survive an asteroid destroying the Earth, he would be on that list.
Get to town. It'll be safer there.
You can feel his fatherly ways. You can feel that he's got this tough interior. It really was a great combination.
Sound really is half of your experience. The first half is being taken in with your eyes. The second half is being taken in with your ears. You should be able to look at something in the world, hear the sound that's coming from that, and think in your mind's ear, yes, this makes sense. This fits in the world. Gun sounds are one of the hardest things in the world to do, only because you're constantly hearing them. The shotgun is a type of weapon that when you hit the fire button and point it at someone, you really want to feel that kaboom. Get the sound mixed between the high-end elements to pique the interest and the low-end elements, the kick to the gut, to make you feel like you're in a living, breathing, cinematic experience.
Rage is stylized realism. Visually, there was the idea of the scale that was really important. And then it was also like an idea of futurism. So it is still a believable city.
You know, there was definitely a lot of visual from brutalism that has that feel that kind of relates very strongly with the authority. So I wanted to go with something that's very solid and very aggressive looking.
And also we're trying to basically make the parts of this universe one cohesive environment. There was a world before, and there's a new world after that. And you have to think of like the layers between the two eras, basically.
When I started this technology, I had some image in my mind of what it could do, but when the artists get a hold of this and they start working their magic on it, they produce things that, when I look at some of the scenes in Rage, I'm just, wow, that looks better than I would have thought this game could look.
The technology right now allows us to paint on any surfaces at a pixel level.
As an artist, I like the possibility of expressing your vision in a much higher fidelity. There's no textual limitation.
The big challenge is more about when do I stop? When is it good enough that it achieves the goal? So you have to kind of find that good balance.
I want the player to feel like he lived through an experience that is bigger than just the game itself.
Everyone who's seen the game so far has had the same reaction. It's like a visual shock.
There's some really breathtaking imagery there, and it is better than I would have imagined it would be.